is the 257th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the first week of March 2017. This episode is titled Spring in His Step. CloudFocus Weekly is brought to you by the Permissioner, by Arkus. Mass assign and revoke Salesforce permission sets. It truly is permission sets made easy. Available for free on the App Exchange or go to thepermissioner.com. I'm your host, Jason Atwood. Join me, co-host with the most, the man behind the myth, the man putting the band back together, or the reason why the band wasn't together. I will blame you for 97% of all the delays in CloudFocus Weeklies. Justin Edelstein.
I will take 90%.
90%?
90. I'm not willing to go to 97.
I would say Feb. You gotta take all of Feb.
I will take all of Feb, but I can't really take Jan.
Well, we did a podcast in January.
Well, that's when I decided that we should relabel the podcast to just be called CloudFocus or CloudFocus whenever, as kind of a flippant joke.
Right.
But
the running joke is that we're not renaming a podcast.
Right. But we're going to continue to call it
the CloudFocus Show.
The CloudFocus Show.
I think show's a little overdone. I don't want to call it the podcast.
Like the Larry Sanders Show?
It's time for the Jason and Justin and I don't know.
No, that was his other show.
Oh, okay, that was his other show.
That was the Gary Shandling Show.
That's right, the Gary Sanders Show.
Not the Larry Sanders Show.
Same thing. Same Z's.
No Hank Kingsley.
Well, how much do you want to share with our listening audience?
I want to share as much as I want to share.
Well, that's what I'm going to say. Do you want to share?
Yeah.
Should I knock down your crutches in there and make you share some more?
Oh, my God. I'll hit you with one of them. All right. So we've been on hiatus.
Yep.
Like I said, it's been 90% my fault. The reason was I had some hip surgery.
Nice.
Yeah. I went and got the left hip operated on.
Gonna go details. Left hip. Okay.
Left hip. It was not a hip replacement.
That would have been funny.
Nope. Not there yet. It was a restorative procedure, but it's actually harder to come back from this one than an actual replacement. Cause
you just got a new one while you're at it.
No, I actually asked, and hip replacements have a shelf life. They're hardware,
right?
And they only last 20 to 30 years. So
you're
then
not living past 20 to 30 years later.
Oh, come on!
I've seen you.
I'm definitely living. I would have to have at least. I would have to have at least one more, like at least one more. So, and every time they do it, like the harder it kind of gets, and the less successful.
Don't you feel like the technology though, like?
Well, the technology now is better than the technology was 20 years ago, but they still only have a 20 to 30 year shelf life, and they have to like drill into your femur to get the thing in there. So every time they have to drill further down until which point they can't do it anymore.
So you're waiting till you're 60 to get your first hip replacement, thinking that'll last you to 90.
That should do it.
Yeah, that's going to be as much as you
That should just about do it. No, I don't need a replacement. I just needed this thing done that was a little more invasive than I kind of thought it would be, and a little more painful at the start, but now I'm in just the start of week 6 of recovery, and I'm feeling real good. And you've seen me you were there like right after as my terrible nurse, like
I am
the week after
nurse.
The worst. You're like, here, I'll be back in 2 hours. And I'm like, okay, thank you.
Well, I'm the best unpaid nurse.
Yeah.
Maybe if I was being paid, I might have been a little bit more, charitable.
Perhaps.
But
you see me now, I'm like, I was in the office this week for the first time. I got out. I Uber everywhere because can't get on the subway. And I can't even get into a regular cab. So hopefully in about a week and a half, when I go back to see my doctor for the second time, he's going to do an x-ray and he's going to look and make sure everything looks right. And at that point, hopefully he'll say, all right, you're weight bearing, you're good to go. You can drop the crutches. But I do want a moment in time where I'm really rocking a cane. Like, I'm looking forward to that.
I have a cane downstairs if you want to borrow one.
Is it cool though? Because I want a cool cane. I don't want like a hospital cane. Like I have a feeling your cane's kind of lame. I want like a really
cane?
cool cane.
Hashtag space lame cane.
Lame cane. Hashtag space lame cane.
Oh, so much built up banter over the.
But I really want to wear like a fedora and have like a really cool cane.
You know what? You should just wait till your next hip replacement, or when you get your first hip replacement, then you can have a really cool cane.
They keep telling me like, oh, you might go down to one crutch, and I'm like, well, when does the cane thing start? Because I'm really looking forward to the cane.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Well, welcome back.
Anyway, thank you.
It's not like you've been gone anywhere in my life, but welcome back to the podcast.
You've been gone. You've been traveling too, so you should take some of this because I could have done a podcast 2 weeks ago.
I doubt you could have done a podcast 2 weeks. You're popping too many pills.
Oh,
like a little bit like,
no. I kind of stopped the pills. I mean, there was a moment there where the pills were really flowing, but only like the first 2 weeks, I think. I was really
last week
really
I was on
knocking
vacation,
them down.
and the week before I was traveling. The week before that I was traveling.
Right,
but
so
we
this
could
is all on you.
No.
I think we're moving back down from 90.
No,
because I could have. I mean, we're sitting in my apartment right now. We could have done this.
No, you couldn't even sit for like the first 5 weeks. Like this week is the first week you're actually sitting in a chair. You've always had to be like on your whatever that is.
It's called a couch.
At this point, it's called a medical bed.
It's called my office.
It's called your office.
It's a couch and it's my office. And
I
love it. Super productive for my couch office.
That I will say, I might have to, next time I feel like you're not getting enough work done, I'm going to break your other hip or break your hip because you are really productive.
Really
productive.
Nothing
else to do.
When you can't move, you're like, and you just can't move. You have your laptop on your lap and you like can't do anything.
It was after drugs, but before movement is like you're super productive.
Like there's like a 3-week window there when you can accomplish anything.
12 hours a day. just
more,
got a laptop.
Just go for it.
I think having the new laptop probably helps.
Yeah, because it's a sweet little puppy. Got the new MacBook Pro. It's fun. It's fast. It's like
fun and fast.
It's clicky when you type on it.
A little loud.
I can't type during a podcast because you'll catch me.
You'll be like click, 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 click. It's like the 1950s keyboard. All right, so I
have a funny story for you.
Okay, funny story.
Before we get into lightning.
Okay. We're not getting into lightning. We're getting into spring 17. But
a lot of it's lightning. A lot of it, actually. But yeah, you're right. Spring 17. So I was talking to a podcast listener the other day. And he was like, oh, when's your new podcast? And I was like, oh, I'm going to do one this week. Get ready. And, he wrote me back. And he's like, you'll appreciate this funny story. I hope I do it justice. He was changing a light bulb in his apartment, or his house, I should say. I'm sure he lives in a house, and he's changing this light bulb, and he's not really worried about electricity flowing through it or whatever. He just has the switch turned off.
Right.
But he had been messing around. He has a Wemo switch on it, and we've talked about Wemos here on this podcast before. Yep. So he was playing around, and he had an if this then that, or I guess it's called if, whatever it's called now. Yes. He had a recipe or whatever they call it.
It's called if, and they call it recipes.
All right, cool. So he had one cooked up where if somebody closed won an opportunity at his company, it would flicker his lights, and as he's changing this light bulb, it's starting to flicker.
Oh, that's funny.
And he's like, "Oh, I don't want to die because I closed one opportunity."
Today in the news,
closed one opportunity.
I closed one opportunity. Killed a man.
Killed a man
in his apartment.
Fell off a chair. So yeah, I thought that was interesting,
good,
funny Salesforce story. I saved that one.
I thought it had more to do with us, so I'm a little disappointed.
No, sorry. Well, nothing to do with us. Just a podcast listener.
Just a podcast listener.
More than just a podcast listener. One of my favorite podcasts.
Okay, we've gotten a lot of flack from the people that...
I don't really care.
Yeah.
Just download.
Right. Well, if there's nothing to download, that's the problem. I've been doing a research.
Why don't you do the best ofs? You should have been having these like.
I've been doing the research because I have to figure out the
putting in the man hours.
I've been putting in the man hours. Well, first of all, it requires me to still do work. Unlike you, I still have to do work. Mm-hmm. So I still have to get up there and be like, "Hey, this is the last. This is." I mean, I could just release them, but I feel like that's not fair. They have to be like edited with a new opening, which is, hey, this is Jason. Just here's another rebroadcast. See you next week.
But can't you just record that once?
I think you could, but I think it'd be, well, you still have to redo each one to publish it. And I wanted to make it like, oh, here's one that we did way back in blah. It was about blah. I think you'll enjoy this part of it.
Like our first ever?
Like, this is the one where I go off
stupid.
on Spring 17 or Spring 14.
This is the one where you picked Spring 11 as your
still
pick
the best
of the week.
Still the best pick of the week. Spring 11. Spring 14 is still the worst release of Salesforce. Spring 17.
Spring is in the step.
Oh, we'll talk it. In his step.
Oh, his
AKA
step.
you.
Yeah, I got it.
All right. So we have, so we always say that while the podcast, not so much weekly, the blog at blog.arkusinc.com is very much weekly.
It cooks.
It cooks. It's still, because there's other people writing than just you and I.
Right.
So we have not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5.
For the price of one.
Spring 17 blog posts.
Shipping and handling.
And then
paid
after
separately.
that, we have not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 4 new blog posts that have nothing to do with Spring 17. So we're going to break them into Spring 17 today.
Yeah.
I'm actually talking about foreshadowing. I'm going to Destination Success next week.
So there won't be a podcast next week.
Nope. But when
right.
I get back, we can talk about that as well. So we'll have lots of content to talk about for next time.
So savor this one.
And I'll be... Just pause right now and wait like a week and then listen to the...
Don't listen at that 1.5 speed nonsense.
No, put this on half speed.
Yep.
It's like a 3-hour podcast if you listen
slow
to it half
down.
speed. All right. So first up, and again, we'll just talk about spring as we go as well, was yours.
It was mine.
Before you got your new hip.
Yeah.
Which was the very, I think now, one of the oldest blog tropes we have.
The recurring series.
A series called the Rapid... Oh, you didn't even call it the Rapid Release.
It wasn't really rapid.
Oh.
It was more of a, because the notes weren't even out of preview yet.
Oh.
But I still thought I'd waited a couple of weeks too long to have written it. So I felt like just calling it a release notes preview.
Preview.
As opposed to a rapid reaction.
Well...
Because they're weird now. They put them out in preview, and then they'll they'll pull things out and put things in and be like, yeah, it was a preview.
So I did the opposite, as I think I put on Twitter the other day. I usually read them as they come out, like sometime after they're out. I still like the PDF. I know I'm the only person left who likes the PDF, but I can just sort of just scroll through it. Much easier than clicking. But I read it after Spring 17 was out. So I was reading through, and what was fun was, I didn't have to go to like a dev.org or partial or whatever to go see it. I went right into our production, and I'm like, ooh, look, click. Well, that works.
Says the consultant. Don't do that.
No, that's absolutely in your production org. If you're the admin, just turn everything on. Anyway,
and all the Arkus business went somewhere.
If you're both the founder of the company and the Salesforce admin, you can turn on anything you want. That's the
hard and fast rule.
So you picked a bunch of features. Why don't we each pick one, since we have tons that come in your release notes preview?
And I don't even know. Like, there might be stuff that I have in here that other people have picked.
Why don't you pick one? Well, why don't you just pick one? We'll keep going as we go up.
I'll pick my favorite one,
which is
So this was very focused on Lightning, and there's a lot of features that came out in Lightning that I thought were very interesting. But the shortcuts, I think that's fabulous. You can shortcut pretty much any page that you're sitting on. So, anything, any record, a report, a tab, a list view, wherever. Kind of like wherever you are, you just click the little star, and then...
It rhymes.
Yeah, and then you can very easily get back to it. Now, I know you're big on the back to list, that little link in Classic where
that they decided
just disappears.
Good enough to bring forward to Lightning, which there's an idea, hit the idea exchange, back to list view.
But I think, now favorites doesn't solve it, but the new tabs in Lightning does. You don't really, I know it's 2 clicks versus 1, but the tabs do solve it.
It's first of all, as a user experience, that's terrible. because
I'm just telling you
the tabs
it's
aren't
soft.
fast.
I understand, but
A
the
link
whole
that's-
thing isn't fast.
But
So
no. But the tab, meaning I have to. The way it worked before in Classic, as you know, there was a link
How did we
that's
get down this
sitting there
rat hole from
that I
favorites?
can quickly click on. Now you're saying, oh, the better way is to go click on this tab.
I did not say the better way.
Oh, okay.
I said
Not a replacement. I don't even want you to give them the idea that that's a replacement. They said
who's
the back.
they? I'm giving the
Salesforce.
listeners who use Salesforce. If you're missing your back to list link, if you're on a list, you're gonna jump to a record, and then the tab has a little drop down, and the drop down has your recent lists on it, and you just click on the one where you came from because it's gonna be there. It's gonna be the one right on the top because you came from it.
Might render within a second or two.
Again, I'm not talking about speed. I'm just saying there's a workaround.
Yeah. No, but the workaround's a back button.
Well, the back button doesn't work very well.
No, their official word is use the back button on your browser to go back.
That's super duper awesome. Anyway,
Well, that's actually easier because it's a key command.
shortcuts,
All right.
which is not what we just talked about. But anyway, access lists, records, groups, dashboards,
All the
reports, anything that you frequently visit, throw it as a favorite. You'll love it.
Now, having said that, I'm going to put you to the test.
Yeah.
How often do you spend now in Lightning, and how often do you use favorites when you're in Lightning?
I don't spend much time in Lightning in our org.
Okay, so
Our
I
org
think it's
is-
one of those
our
things
org,
that
our org isn't. It's not conducive. There's things that I do in our org that I'm not. That we haven't yet moved to the way to do it in Lightning, to set up like the homepage properly, to make sure that everything that I really, really want to use is really there. So I don't really use it very often. But whenever I show it to clients, they love it.
Yeah. It's one of those features that I think is a good feature. I'll be interested, because I know there's features of Salesforce that I use all the time. There's features that I always thought would be cool, like request a meeting. Like, oh, I thought this was a cloud scheduler. That'd be awesome. And then never used it. So the other one you picked, which is huge, I think, is Kanban or Kanban or whatever. This is one of these Pardos, Kanban, Kanban. View everywhere. So basically you can put it on any object, and for custom objects, that's really the big view. You throw it on to, whatever you have built out.
It excludes knowledge and tasks.
Yes. Tasks would be
awesome.
Tasks would be okay.
I mean, I don't know if people really necessarily use task statuses other than open and close, or not started and completed.
Well, I think there's in progress.
There's a bunch of standard ones.
So Kanban view everywhere, I think that's very nice. Let's keep moving because we got another one. So next up, sales.
Have you built a Kanban board for a custom object?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
For clients and
because you
for
can
ourselves.
summarize fields
Yeah.
and you can say which ones you want to group by. It's nicely
You have
done.
to think through it. I mean, it's not just
Yeah.
turn it on. You have to think like what, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. You do it and you're like,
You look at it, it's like, every record's in that one column.
right.
Why?
I did it for our projects, and my projects is all in the
Yeah.
same status.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, well, maybe it'd be better if we had different statuses.
That's probably the right answer.
That's probably the right
you
answer.
just said.
So Spring 17 by Amy Bucciferro
Well, Spring 17
for Salesforce communities.
Communities.
She comes up with not one, not two, not three, but many new features in the communities. Why don't you pick one that you like?
Okay, I'll choose one that I like. Actually, I feel like, this is like not a big deal thing, but the direct messages piece in communities, just having that as a feature is a nice check in the win column. It's not the most used feature ever, but I do tend to use it in the success community because you don't really necessarily see people's email addresses. I mean, you can, but you don't really feel right, like kind of emailing someone out of the blue. But if you want to talk to someone off to the side, being able to direct message somebody is a nice feature, and to have it just built in, it's been a part of Chatter for a long time. It's probably very underused internally, but I feel like in a community, it adds a lot of value.
It's the only place I would ever use it. And the only place I've ever used it is in Salesforce Success Community or Power of Us Hub. And sometimes it's just because you're there and you're like, I want to send you a message right in the community as opposed to jumping out the email.
Yeah. I just want it to just be here because you know who it's coming from. It's like it's actually less spammy if you think about it than just sending someone an email that you don't know.
Right. Well, because they
know that you're coming
you're
from the
authenticated to the community,
Yeah,
so they know that you're at least there. I have used it as a way when we used to run a user group. I've used it as a way of like, no, and I tell someone off on a private message. So that's a good one. I think one of the great ones is and I haven't used this yet, but I think it's from a navigational standpoint, which I'm always big into navigation. Community workspaces, which is because there's lots in communities that's left over from Site Builder, and there's lots. It's like one of these just
it's pretty rough in there.
Yeah, it's rough to jump around sometimes, and you find yourself like, why am I going here to do this? So this kind of is just their first take on building one place where I can kind of do a lot of things at the same time and jump into the builder, the moderation, the dashboards, the administration. So it's a nice. I think that's a nice Spring 17 release note feature for communities. The rest of them, and she has stuff on design and features, tons and tons of them.
Google Analytics.
Yeah, that's a good one. That you can read on blog.arkusinc.com, as well as then Peter White. Did I pronounce that right?
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one. Wrote on Salesforce Spring 17 Release Deep Dive. So this is different than, this is like diving deep into the into all the things Spring 17.
Yep.
So why don't you pick a couple? Now, I like
some of these we've already talked about.
Right. But I like that Pete did two things. One, he used pictures.
He did do screenshots.
Because he did screenshots. That's great because it's always fun to see how things work.
Yep.
All the Salesforce does a good job. But yeah, so pick one. Pick one of his. He does enough that you can pick
got
out.
a ton of them in here.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll pick one that I think could be rather interesting. I'll pick the utility bar. So
Okay.
I think this could be interesting for console apps. I think it's just an interesting thing, an interesting concept in general to bring console app concepts to the native not console experience. So it allows for you to put little, like, I think the examples that he gave were history and notes.
Yep.
So little quick shortcut hits to this little utility bar at the bottom of the screen, where if you're used to working in a console, you've got like the knowledge thing, you've got the live agent and the recent items. Those are all, the macros are all down there in that utility bar. Well, now you can use that kind of anywhere for nice productivity tools. So you just, a quick click away and you can get to, your recent items or your notes or what have you. So it's a pretty interesting idea and interesting components. These are like the idea of Salesforce delivering more standard components to me as Lightning comes along and becomes closer and closer as far as feature parity is concerned. I like the idea of more standard components being built by Salesforce, like their take on what components should be.
Right.
As opposed to just, all right, here it is, and now we're just going to keep building on the platform. I'd rather see components that they come out with, as opposed to just relying on third parties to build.
Do you know how customizable the utility bar is?
I don't.
Okay.
No.
So good job. But either do I. But so that to me is when, again, I love bashing me some nice Lightning, but the things I do find great about it are that it is built with it's a tool set in mind, that the UI is something you can take over, that you can build custom stuff on top of, that you can really, it's one of the big complaints about Salesforce for years is that the UI is kind of stuck. Like you can't do much unless you override the page or throw in Visualforce elements.
Especially the homepage.
The homepage being the
homepage being
right?
the biggest thing. You log in, you're on the homepage, and it's like, what can I do here? No, you can sort of do a lot if you want to go down that route, but.
And now there's stuff, and I'll just pick one just because everybody knows about it, which is inline editing in list views.
Yeah. Hey, how about that?
That's a really nice feature in Spring 11, which is my favorite.
Probably before that.
Yeah, it's probably back then. That'd be funny. We should go back figure out when that hit. So, list views are very powerful. There's some really nice things about list views in Lightning. Again, if you're not in Lightning or thinking about why to go to Lightning, built-in charting in list views is very powerful. We talked about Kanban view.
Yep.
Inline editing is really just coming back from Classic over, but there's some really nice things, and I think there's some pieces of if you look around the UI of the Lightning list views, you'll start to see there's some nice little things they added. You're like, oh, that's nice to have there. And like they put the sort of information at the top and they show you what's filtering in the list view without having to go into the list view.
Right.
Just
those little...
So, I mean, this is, I think, how
buttons on the top
how we're
right.
going to get into liking Lightning more and more and wanting to use it. Is we're going to get hooked on some little stuff like that. And then we go back to Classic. We're like, wait, why isn't the list view telling me what the filter is? Right. Oh, right. Or why can't I do a chart? Or why can't I do a Kanban view? This one's a catch-up feature, but still, totally worth it. Totally worth mentioning. So thanks, Pete. And next up, we got Spring 17. So Ashley Lightfirst produces Salesforce Spring 17 ideas delivered.
Yeah, this is always one of my favorite blog posts.
It's a blog post?
It's one of my favorites because every release will go in and find a whole bunch of ideas that were delivered and how many points they had. And you'll see like, wow, that one retired a whole lot of points. Whereas that one kind of didn't, but hey, they delivered it anyway, which is kind of like, yeah, that was on the roadmap anyway. We're going to do it.
So just so everybody knows, and I'm sure from newer listeners or older listeners, Salesforce is
Don't
very...
discriminate against people at a certain age or whatever.
The Salesforce pays attention to these points, and they use it as a metric. Like that when product managers are looking at their roadmap, they look at, hey, in this release, I'm going to retire 100,000 points, let's say. And that's like a big thing. So they don't... So that's actually... To your point, when they pick a small feature, they wouldn't necessarily pick that. So it incentivizes them to go after the bigger ticket items, even though they might be harder. So, but an interesting point that they do. So, I mean, so many in here. Why don't we pick two, or pick one each? Because again, we have tons of Spring to go. Sure.
I was going to select the one around merging.
Okay.
Contacts across accounts. And it kind of goes, they took this idea called merge contacts across accounts and included it in an entirely larger feature set that was delivered around duplicate detection and merging. So I've always found it, I mean, I understand why it is the way it is, but I've always found it not a fun experience to have to edit a contact that I know is a dupe and put it into an account to then merge it. So I have to do a lot of work before I can just merge the record. And that is resolved. So you can now detect and merge duplicate companies and contacts in the Lightning experience.
Right. This is these hooks. I'm telling you.
These little hooks. So when you enable the duplicate matching rules for accounts and contacts, a record, now there's a potential duplicate component, or I don't know if it's a component or a related list. It shows up as a related list on the account and contact record that shows you potential duplicates, and a little, like, if as you're adding it, a little notification, little toast type of thing drops down and says it looks as though duplicates exist for the account. And it'll ask you if you want to. Yeah, it is a component. It asks you if you want to go ahead and compare. And when you go ahead and compare certain accounts, you can actually select the master contacts. You can select like the master account, which is interesting because it allows you to sort of merge contacts across accounts without having to move them around first. You just say, yeah, this account, it belongs there. Put it there and inherit all the things that it inherits from that account.
That's actually a massive feature.
It really is, because it stinks to have to explain to somebody how to do it.
The worst was when you have, I'm trying to think because in the merge tool, when you went to search for accounts, the search on it, and I might have put in an idea on this, the search on it was terrible. It was like name search. And if it wasn't the same starting name, like if it was ABC Company and A.B.C. Company, you wouldn't be able to find them both. So you kind of always had to rename one to be the same as, just to even get the merge the accounts. And then once you merge the accounts, then you go merge the context underneath. So that's a good one. I'll pick another one that, again, it's sort of one of the things you would think already happened, but I went in as one of the first things I went in and started playing around with, and I think people are really in love, is a replacement for the create new, right? Create new on the left-hand nav of Classic has been, like, that's where you sit, like, oh, create new something. And I train people all the time. It's like, look, you can create something new right here, a report. Oh, yep. So this is gone, and now you have global actions. Well, now global actions that are in this little plus bar for plus up there, right next to your favorites, you can now put your custom things in there. So you can add custom global actions to do new stuff, which is even actually better than create new, because create new was always limited by your tab set. So this can be beyond your tab set. It can have things in it that you might not have in your tabs,
right?
Which is useful. So that's a nice one. And I don't know how many points it was. Let's see. It was only 480 points.
Yeah.
But a good one. So, let's going to go back to my blog here. I got so many blog posts. So thanks, Ashley. Again, whole bunch. She goes over a ton. There's beta ones. There's knowledge. There's a lot of knowledge. But there's tons and tons. I love manage duplicate person accounts. It gets in there.
Person accounts seem to be one release behind,
if not two.
I think usually I've noticed the trend that they're one behind every release.
Yeah, I think
with features they just sort of stick to one behind.
Just don't know why they just stop it. Next up, skip over that one.
The next one is Spring 17 for Lightning, which is interesting because we've kind of only been talking about Lightning, but I will talk about one that I think is.
Well, who's it by?
It's by Ryan Owens.
Is that pronounced correctly? I think it's like Owens.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'll talk about this feature that I think is really intriguing. So I'm always been a fan of search. This goes back to the days of working on search engines.
For me.
For you.
Yep.
Whatever. But, and this is a feature this is one of those things, again, why it's a rolling release. So this isn't immediately available. It's going to become available on a rolling basis throughout the release. It's called Search for Contacts Using the Account Name. Really interesting, right? So it's basically you can search for, and they give two examples.
They or Ryan did?
They, Salesforce, give kind of in a table. They explain how this works. This change applies to Lightning, Classic, and all versions. It's basically a platform change,
right,
to search.
It's part of their search, platform,
right?
Yeah.
So basically, what you can do is enter a first or last name of a person and their account, the name of their account, and you can find that person. So contacts that match the terms and are related to that account that you're searching for will be returned. So they give the example of an account called Acme Industries and a contact named Mia Adams. If you search for Mia Acme, you will find Mia Adams.
Nice.
You for Acme Industries.
Right.
So you've actually found both.
Right.
If your search layouts are good.
Right.
You found them both. They give an example of Mike Smith at ABC Company. If you search for Mike Smith ABC, you're going to find that Mike Smith.
Right.
Not all the other Mike Smiths.
Right.
If you have a really large database of contacts and leads, you're going to find a lot of Mike Smiths, I imagine. But Mike Smith ABC, well, that's the one I want.
Right.
That's a really nice search feature.
I'm going to point out, too, that these are, again, catch-up ones, but maybe you're out there thinking, one of the reasons I won't go to Lightning is for for these reasons. Or you didn't know these features exist in Classic, which shame on you. which is subscribing to reports. You can now do in Lightning.
Love that feature.
That's a great feature. And following. So following is easy. You just follow something. You can follow a dashboard. So following a dashboard is now in Lightning. Okay, great. Following's nice. I mean, if someone comments on the chatter, I do think that I find that as chatter gets more and more adopted, that people forget or don't trust the rules of following and notifications and that more and more mentions happen. So even if I know you're following something, like or even if I know you're in the thread and you've already been mentioned, I might still mention you again because you're not going to get 2 emails, which is good. That would be terrible if you got 2.
Yeah, it would be.
But it's just my way of knowing that I notified you. So that's nice. But subscribing to reports is now in Lightning Experience. It's now in a pop-up modal, which is all of Lightning's, LDS. Great feature. It's for individuals to not get a scheduled report, but to get a report based on your own parameters. So you go in, you say, hey, this report, I want it only when this thing happens. It can be values, it can be numbers of records. And so instead of getting an empty report every day that tells you nothing happened, you can only get it when it crosses certain thresholds. Really, really, really powerful. The only drawback, and maybe I got to go to the exchange and put something in, is being able to subscribe for others. I find that's a use case where it's like, I want all the execs to have this subscription.
Because you can schedule them for others.
Right.
You can go in and schedule a run and have it emailed to everyone in this group.
I feel like those 2 features just need to merge.
Well, they're different.
But when you schedule it, you say to me.
Well, you're saying run as me and send to these people.
Right.
But the difference between the schedule and the subscribe is the schedule will send it regardless.
Right.
No matter what, you're going to get an email and it might have 0 records in it.
Right. And then gets
the
ignored.
Subscribe is used as a way to say, tell me when something hits a threshold.
Right.
I want to know.
But if you have 100 people in your org, and that's a great feature, you don't want them all to keep getting the same report. So you only want to get when it hits this threshold, but you want 100 people to get it.
Yeah, I mean, the scheduling part of it should have a conditional aspect to it.
Right.
Which would be the subscription.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So
and
I feel like
and again, the subscription also doesn't do anything but tell you hit the threshold, here's a link to the report.
That's true.
The schedule sends you the report.
So I feel like they
there could be a merge.
They need to merge.
They can merge this.
And I should get the report when it hits.
Yeah, when it hits, I want it.
Right. I use them we track invoices. It's great because you can just track things. Okay. All right. So is that the last of our blog posts?
That's it.
Wow.
We made it.
All right. Let's get to our CloudFocus app picks of the year.
The year?
Well, I don't know. It's only our second podcast of the year, and it's already March. So
okay. So I am picking something that I've purchased but have yet to receive.
By the way, we have enough picks because we haven't done anything for like 3 months. Like we've bought so many things. I've personally purchased so many things over the last couple months.
It's true.
I have plenty to pick for months.
It's true. I have this new MacBook Pro.
You can pick that.
Pretty cool. So I could pick all the dongles that I have for my MacBook Pro. I've got about 7 new dongles.
You can pick each one a week.
Each dongle. Here's the USB dongle. Here's the lightning bolt dongle.
Well, maybe we get through all the other stuff. We'll get back and we'll do a podcast about the new MacBook Pro and talk about what we like and don't like.
So the case that I had for my iPhone 7 Plus.
Yeah. Phablet.
My phablet broke.
Okay.
It was the one that I had from my 7 or whatever it was. What is this? What do we have now? 7Ss? Is this a 7S?
No, we have 7s.
So I had a 6S before? All right. So I kept using the same one. And I guess they're slightly different size. So it kind of like cracked it in the corners. So I could tell all right, I've dropped this thing a few times and the case did a good job because it cracked the case but it didn't crack the actual phones. That's good.
Crack the case.
So the case, cracked the case wide open. So I'm like, all right, it's time to get a new iPhone case.
Yes.
So I'm looking around and I'm going to talk about this product and I'm going to talk about the experience of purchasing it.
Okay, we'll make it quick. We're an hour in here.
Well, we've been away for a month. So I bought this thing called the Utomic Edge.
Yep.
It's spelled UTOMIC Edge. And basically, it's an iPhone case, but it's like 4 corners. That's all it is. It's these 4 little corners that just go on the 4 corners of the iPhone, obviously.
Wait. So the 4 corners
Shut your mouth.
Go on the 4 corners?
I'm rusty. Shut up. So basically, like if you drop it, it prevents, because usually you're dropping it like on a corner, but it has a little bit of a lip so that if you drop it straight down, it's still not gonna like hit flush, because the 4 corners have this little rubber thing.
So if there's a rock right in the way, then it drops right straight on the rock. Okay,
I've heard of that happening. So yeah, so the interesting part about this, besides the product being interesting, it's $35. I bought it. Okay. I'm gonna get it soon, I hope.
Oh, you don't even own this thing yet?
Not yet.
Oh, you're the worst. Don't pick things you don't own.
No, I want to talk about this experience. It was very interesting.
Okay.
So I bought it
AppleCare
on a Facebook ad.
Oh.
So I'm scrolling through Facebook on my phone.
Yeah.
And an ad comes up for this thing, and it was a great ad. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, you know what? I want that. So I click the button, and it drops me over right into their commerce site.
Right.
I pick the product.
I see what you're
saying. I purchase it. I then get a message, a Facebook message in Facebook Messenger.
Terrible.
That says, here you go, you bought this thing. Let us know if you need anything. And I was like, that's really interesting. I just found the whole experience interesting. I'm not going to say, like, I love it. I'm not going to say I hate it.
Did every one of your friends also get a message that said, hey?
I have no idea.
I did. I got one that said, do you also want to buy this? Justin just bought this.
Oh, my God.
No, it didn't happen.
I was about to say, that's a little intrusive.
That's bad.
But at the same time, like, to get an instant connection to the company, like, through a Facebook message saying, if you need anything, let us know. Here's your confirmation that you got this thing.
I thought you were going to say you bought it with Apple Pay, because that would have been cool.
No, I buy a lot of things through Apple Pay. I buy my Seamless on Apple Pay.
No, but Apple Pay through Facebook, through a website. I
was on their website. It really didn't have much. They just knew I came in through Facebook, so I was in the container. But I buy, like when I order Seamless, I pay with Apple Pay.
Love it.
Yeah.
Apple Pay on Safari, although I haven't seen a lot of them, but like on the computer, is great. All of a sudden you're shopping, and I was on the holidays, and I was buying something. I think it was Uggs. I think that was the place. Anyway, I went to buy it, and it's like Apple Pay. I'm like, ooh, what's that going to be like on Safari on my computer? Let me see it. Click, and then put down my little. Actually, no, it sent a note because it was before the new phone. It sent a thing to my phone that I just double clicked on my phone, and then all my information showed up. Boom, click, done. I'd never logged into that site.
Do you know what's not so great about Apple Pay?
What?
And this might be based on your credit card provider.
Yep, it is.
Your bank.
I'll tell you right now.
So I added a credit card to Apple Pay recently on 3 devices. My phone, my watch. I don't remember who they were.
Amex.
Was it Amex?
Because I gave you the 3 envelopes.
Oh, okay. It was Amex. Yeah. So I add it to my phone. I add it to my computer. I add it to my watch. I get 3 pieces of snail mail telling me what I did digitally.
That's fraud protection.
I understand, but it's like, hey, how about 1? And just list the 3 devices.
Because they're 3 different accounts.
It's the same account.
Oh, same account, 3 different devices.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did them all on the same day.
I wonder if it's like transactional,
time.
like it went.
But
you didn't do it at the exact same time.
I did it within 30 minutes.
Right, but that's each one kicks off a new letter.
Pretty lame, I guess.
Anyway, so I'm gonna pick.
Is this podcast over?
No,
should be.
No, we got so much more content. I'm gonna pick something that I have been actually using, but when it came out, I don't know, months ago, but we haven't.
As someone who's purchased you rather expensive Bluetooth headphones, I'm really happy that you're going to talk about these.
Well, you know how many pairs of Bluetooth headphones I have now? 3. And these I like the most. Well, I thought I wasn't going to use these for running. So anyway, it's the Apple AirPods, which got a lot of flack before they came out. It was like, these things are terrible. How are they going to work? And then they came out, and everybody loved them. And I feel the same way.
Till you don't.
No,
Until they stop making them.
Until they stop making them. Well, that's fine. Then I'll have this pair, and then someone else makes something better. Anyway, they're a small, you've probably seen them in the commercials, whatever. I'll say just as my review of them, the one thing I didn't think I'd be able to do was go to the gym or run or do something with it. So I have a pair of Beats, what do they call, wireless Beats Sport or something. The ones with the big wraparound.
Yeah.
And I've been running with those. You gave them to me for years and years ago, or 2 years ago. And I run with them all the time. I love them. They're great for running. But you wouldn't like wear them to like talk on the phone, and because they kind of wrap behind your ear, and so I only wore them while running. And I have another big pair that's like it's all into like Apple and Beats. I have the other big Beats, like over the head ones, wireless ones, and those are okay, but I wouldn't wear them like running, and I wouldn't wear them to the gym. So I don't know. But this is these are the perfect, because I've now take them on planes and they work on the plane and they sound great. I go running with them, they stay in my ears. I've gone for long runs. I can go to the gym with them. You can put them in. They're very smart. They know when they're in your ears. When you pull them out, they stop the music or stop anything. You can double tap. I would say the only thing that's kind of a drawback is they don't have any devices on them, any buttons. So it's all tap.
I could not get it to work when I was playing with it. Remember, you gave it to me, and I'm like, let me try them. First I put one in the wrong ear. That didn't work very well.
Yeah. You have to put it
I
in
was
the right
on
ear.
drugs, probably.
Yeah.
And then you're like, just tap it. And I'm like, tapping it, and nothing's happening.
It's two
Gotta
taps.
get used to it,
It's two taps. You have to get used to it. But I will find, unlike every other, like the Beats and all the other ones, they all have some hardware device to turn the music up or down. So on the Beats around the ear, there's a little button.
Right.
On the big ones, there's a huge button on the side.
This? You have to go to the phone?
So there's no way to do it. You can either do it on the phone, or their suggestion
Say, hey Siri?
Hey Siri, turn up the volume. But when you're running,
hey Siri, turn up the volume,
or whatever, like, volume up or whatever, she'll do it. It's fine.
Alexa works that way.
Right. But that's fine for something that's across the room, but this is in my ear.
Don't turn on Alexa.
Yeah. But so I feel like there's something they could do with the taps. Like either 3 taps is up, 1 tap is down. Like they should just do something.
Let me ask you this while you're suggesting things that they can do.
Yeah.
Can they update those things?
Oh, they have. It's already had 2.
So they can hot fix.
Yeah, software. There's software on them.
Software.
I've already had it. Software updates, and it shows up.
Okay, so they could potentially do it, but they have to use the hardware that's already in the.
You have to use the hardware. So I think this is a great first
maybe
version.
They could
I love talking on them.
Rub the thing.
Well, it doesn't have taptic, a little rub. I thought about that, or I understand why they didn't make a hardware thing, because it's another thing that can break. It's like, there's another button that can have a problem. Anyway, they charge in this little cool charger. The charger cools it. And the fun thing is I connect up to multiple devices. It's really easy. Like my wife's iPad, because my iPad's kind of broken, so I take hers to the gym. Just click, connect up to hers, listen, come back, connect with my phone. Like it's not, because of the new technology, you don't have to like worry about, this is connected to that other thing. So anyway, I think they're great. I know I'm an Apple fanboy, so it doesn't really mean anything.
Sure
are. Next week, we have the GTD yearly review. We have 2017 Salesforce resolutions. We'll try to get to that before 2017 ends. We have tips for selecting marketing automation. We have a blog post by you on super badges. I will then have a whole blog post on, what am I writing it on this week? Oh, top 10 blog. This is like my easiest blog post ever.
Blogception.
The top 10 blog posts of 2016. And then, although I should probably write something on destination success. So maybe I'll do 2 blog posts. And so I have all that when we come back. That and much, much more. You can follow Justin at Just Edelstein, me at Jason M. Atwood, Arkus at Arkus Inc. We're on the Facebook, facebook.com//Arkus Inc. Success Community, the Power of Us Hub, of course, LinkedIn, Google+, which still exists. And, it's 2017, so why don't you drop a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And until next year or month or periodic time in which we record a podcast for you to enjoy, it's Justin Jason saying, enjoy those cloudy days.